Is the WNBA lying about its TV ratings? Are they cooking the books when it comes to Caitlin Clark? There's actually enough evidence to make you wonder about everything. I'm Doug Kezirian. This is Hard Pass, also available in podcast. As someone who worked in the media during Donald Trump's first presidential run, I absolutely hate the term fake news. The fact that I was also at ESPN, or ESPN as the trolls called it, amplified the annoyance to that term. I was a sitting duck. 50% of the country saw me as guilt by association. It's been a few years, and fortunately the fake news nonsense has quieted a bit, but I now sort of get it. That's how I feel right now when it comes to the WNBA throwing out all sorts of numbers. And all it took was a single tweet cooking the books from ESPN PR to make me question every single thing that's now promoted about TV ratings and the WNBA not needing Caitlin Clark as badly as we all once thought. Truthfully, I doubt it, because there is so much at stake with a $2 billion TV deal about to kick in. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big WNBA fan and better, and have been supporting this league for over a decade. However, I can also be level-headed and realize Caitlin Clark is in fact the golden goose. For me, the tipping point happened over All-Star Weekend by ESPN PR when they tweeted that the All-Star Game viewership has increased 158%. Naturally, you assume that means compared to last year. However, the fine print says it was compared to 2 years ago. But then the skills competition and three-point contest ratings were compared to last year. What? Why all these gymnastics? Well, 2 years ago was also the last time Caitlin Clark was not involved in the All-Star Game, because she missed it this year with an injury, but she did play last year, which was her rookie season. Simply, this misdirection creates mistrust. Longtime reporter Christine Brennan opined on this topic with this tweet. Why does ESPN PR continue to mislead its followers? The 2025 All-Star Game viewership was not historic. It was a huge drop from last year. In 2024, 3.44 million watched when Caitlin Clark played in the game. This year, with Clark injured, viewership plummeted to 2.2 million. And then the arrows were where the fine print is. Now, her main point is that it was actually a huge drop from last year. Why not just say that and point out that Clark didn't play, but it's still a trend in the right direction from a couple years ago? Fast forward a month later, and all these reports are surfacing that attendance and ratings are up this season, even with Clark only playing 13 games. The latest? The W set an arena attendance record of 2.5 million fans through 226 total games across the entire league, breaking the mark set in 2002. In fewer games, they needed 256 back then. So that all sounds great, but how did this record from 2002 hold up for more than 2 decades? A 2002 record all of a sudden is broken 23 years later when Caitlin Clark is not playing? That just doesn't sit right. The fly in the ointment in my eyes feels like Golden State's home arena, Valhalla, is responsible for spiking the numbers. So is this really a narrative of the league being so strong without Clark? Or is it the Valkyries having an exciting fan base in year one as an expansion team in a big market in the Bay Area? Plus, so many teams have these dumb announcements that are just blatant misdirection, given the league is in the midst of a record 44-game schedule. Check this out by the LA Sparks, tweeting that Kelsey Plum broke a franchise record for most points in a season. I retweeted while pointing out the stupidity that this occurred in game number 35, and in the league's entire history, 28 years, the Sparks have only played at least 34 games 4 times. Now, the peanut gallery will point out that girl math is always questionable, but in all seriousness, how can they not see what's wrong with this? It just doesn't add up, literally. So does this mean every team's defense across the league this season is the worst in franchise history because they're going to allow the most total points ever, and just not mention it's because of a longer schedule? I'm already annoyed at the tweets that are going to occur at the end of the season. All these franchise records going down, numerous of them, because they're going to ignore the per game average as opposed to the total games, the record 44 game schedule across the entire WNBA. God forbid we talk about game averages rather than total stats. It's just dumb. Now, I realize that tweet is very small in the grand scheme of things, but this league is still trying to gain credibility. That's where they're going to make the most growth. Numbers matter in sports. Because we love stats. They just do. Here's a gross situation by statisticians as this X-account, Sid Colson's nose plug, is accusing the league of cooking the books to promote Paige Bueckers.
The box score read Paige Bueckers 1 turnover. There's 1, let's count them. It's gotta be 2. 5, 4, 3, 2. Should have been a shot clock violation. That's not a turnover, just a blown layup. It's like another turnover. This one they call foul on. Nobody fouled anybody. And they called a foul on this one. Wonder why.
The 1 turnover is egregious, and obviously those were a few questionable foul calls. But even if those were honest mistakes by the people involved, you got to be careful here. It's a horrible look. And officiating has come under fire by both players and coaches routinely in post-game press conferences. That needs to improve, but overall, it's about authenticity and credibility. So when a recent report that has surfaced mentions that TV ratings are 21% higher this year across all networks compared to last season, frankly, I am skeptical. It's not that I've been a fake news person all along, as I alluded to. I cringe at the concept of saying that. The league and partners have created this skepticism amongst fans, including myself. They're the ones playing the role of the boy who cried wolf. My gut tells me this is another cooking of the books, like All-Star Weekend with that PR tweet. Maybe it's because Ion is all of a sudden in more households this year, or something along those lines. There has to be a reason of this 21% increase. I don't think they're lying about the 21% increase, but I think there's other reasons other than people are watching that much more, even when Caitlin Clark has been out for over a month. It just doesn't add up because sane people are saying otherwise. My former ESPN colleague, Rebecca Lobo, who's as solid of a person as I know, not to mention a hoops legend and Hall of Famer, tweeted this. She called the game between the Liberty and Lynx. It was a WNBA Finals rematch. Third most watched non-Indiana regular season game ever on ESPN, averaged 788,000, peaked at 1.1 million. In parentheses, it's okay to acknowledge that fever games are in a class of their own when it comes to TV ratings. I agree, Rebecca. Nothing wrong with being transparent and logical. And in fact, it's a good thing. Both things can be true. Clark can set records when she plays, and in a vacuum, the league is still growing, all things considered. But those who manipulate numbers are going to do much more harm than good. That we know that from throughout history, especially when you're a league that has naysayers out there who are looking to criticize anything about the league, including quality of play. So you have to err on the side of caution and truth. Speaking of which, the NBA 2K ratings also failed to do the WNBA any favors. Check out these top 10 player rankings in the video game. Now, I'm actually just fine with Caitlin Clark being a 96. Being out with an injury should not hurt her overall rating. It's not about this season. It's about overall skill. She's the league's best guard and should be rated as such. Brianna Stewart rated as high as Asia Wilson. Downright laughable in my opinion. Stewie just isn't the same player anymore. And yes, I'm not factoring in the injury. This is prior to her suffering an injury that kept her out for so much time this season. Sabrina Ionescu, too high in my opinion. But how on earth is Angel Reese rated a 90? Come on. In my opinion, Nafisa Collier and Asia should be 98 or 97. Then Alyssa Thomas around a 94, maybe Clark at 94, 93 as well. And then start the next player with about 90. You can't have Angel Reese a few points below these first-tier players when she falls down on breakaway layups and can't jump over a phone book. Now, I do think she's a good player and worthy of being an all-star selection her first 2 seasons like she was. She's an elite rebounder, and I feel bad that a 23-year-old, or anyone for that matter, receives so much hatred and trolling. But the numbers just have to make sense. They do. Even in a world that's a video game, the numbers have to add up. It's about building credibility and authenticity with your fan base. Ironically, it's the players who also want transparency with numbers because they're coming into negotiations with the league about this big potential lockout that's around the corner. And honestly, I think we're headed there because both sides just seem far apart. And it all started with the players over All-Star Weekend wearing the pay us what you owe us t-shirts. Now, they being the players, turned down an offer from the league that would quadruple their salaries. Players turned it down because of transparency or lack thereof. They don't know what's going on behind closed doors with the financial books. And I don't blame the players at all. Expansion teams are selling for hundreds of millions of dollars, and the league or the owners or the teams, somebody's not showing the books. The players' side should have all the financials about revenue sharing. There might be a lockout here because there needs to be some real talk before an agreement is made. But we as fans and consumers also need some real talk because we want to know what we're watching is legitimate. I've said it before, be authentic. That is so important. I hate it when announcers refuse to acknowledge a horrible pass, instead calling it a great steal when it's not. It was just a bad play out of the offense. It's insulting to me as a fan. Stop coddling these players. The product is already good. They have enough great plays that you can praise. You don't need to cover up some mistakes. When they have a Shaq did a fool moment, call it out. If Bueckers has a few turnovers, then make the box score legit. Otherwise, you're going to burn the bridge with all the momentum you've created through 28 years of the WNBA and then the recent spike with the gift that is Caitlin Clark. Time now for fans in the stands, and this is when we acknowledge the comment section from our audience or our fans in the stands. Also, a friendly reminder to please like and subscribe the show. It really helps us with the YouTube analytics. That is the currency in this modern day world. And I always like to address and respond to a couple comments here, but please feel free to join the conversation. We want to hear your thoughts, what you like, what you dislike, recommendations you have for the show, random questions you have. We are a blank canvas for you. Let's most recent episode from Smooth Break. I've learned to just accept and even expect bad calls in any game I watch. I'm pretty sure permanent solutions to modern officiating issues is very expensive. So the ones in charge are looking the other way and dragging their feet. I also just think there's a human element to this, but the WNBA does have an officiating issue. Now, is it the only issue? Is it sometimes, correctable or just human error? I think it in due time, but this is all part of the league trying to gain acceptance. These are just the eggs you have to break to make that omelet. And these are things we have to remember that the NBA right now is so much farther along because it started many, many years ago. The WNBA started in 1997, I believe. Apples to apples, this would be like the NBA in the 70s. There are growing pains that the NBA had in the 70s that the W is just their modern day version of that. Another comment from Loch Ness Capital 1219. The WNBA schedule is strange. They seem to play 4 games in 6 days, like Phoenix's recent stretch, and then have 3 or 4 days off. Minnesota had 1 game from August 11th to August 18th. I understand the nuances with only 13 teams and having them stretch coast to coast, but it seems like there could be a better way to schedule. The complaining about the referees gets pretty old. WNBA refs are not that great, but there's a lot of sloppy play in the league, and I would not put it all on the refs. They are going to make mistakes, but I don't think too many of them have altered the game outcome. Some of these coaches are challenging out-of-bounds plays that are 50-50 in the second quarter. They make plenty of mistakes as well. Overall, a fun watch and excited for the playoffs. I could not agree more. The coaches' challenges are just brain-dead decisions sometimes. Seriously, the Dallas Wings coach just can never get it right. You have to save your challenge. You only get one if you get it wrong, and if you do get it right, you still only get a second one no matter what. End of the game matters much more. You see in the NBA, they don't challenge something early on a 50-50 call. It's just waste of sort of a bullet that you have to preserve. It's stupid game theory is what it is. The refereeing does need to improve. I agree with the schedule, but a lot of that is dictated with TV windows. So sometimes you have to force games and sometimes players have to do back-to-backs or 5 games in an 8-day stretch. Now, it is partly because there's only 13 teams and travel and West Coast, and then the schedule is determined with some of the bigger stars, i.e. Caitlin Clark. But, some of this is avoidable. I think it's a fair comment, but the league's evolving with visibility, and coming up in the playoffs, there's a giant decrease of games that are going to be opposite NFL games from this year compared to last year. They just got smarter about not trying to win that head-to-head face-off with the NFL, the almighty NFL. So really smart maneuvering by the league to do that. It just is what it is. Don't try to get into a head-to-head battle with the NFL, but there are growing pains across the board. And don't forget to join the conversation. Please let us know your thoughts. Am I crazy with some of my comments? Do let me know, and do like and subscribe as well. We need the support here in that YouTube world. That's going to do it for this edition of hard pass.